In today's video, I'm checking out the new top 5 guns in Season 1 of COD Mobile. It's been a bit of a while since I've done a top 5 guns video. In fact, it's been over a year. So I thought I might as well get back into it. I've been wanting to do another one of these for a while, but just never got around to it because it's quite a long video to make. So yeah, if you do go on to enjoy the video, make sure, of course, like and subscribe. And I'm going to give you all the loadouts for the top 5 guns. So if you do want them, make sure to, of course, stick around for any of the guns you may want to see. And yeah, let's get into the video. So this shout goes to RJVD Gaming, or RJVD even, sorry. They have 591 subscribers at the time of this video, and yeah, they do many multiplayer content. If you go over and join their videos, make sure to, of course, like the videos you do enjoy and subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy the channel in general. Of course, I've linked down below in the description and up on the screen here. Make sure to go over, be positive, bring any positive comments what you enjoy on the videos, be positive, bring any positive comments how they can improve their videos. So make sure to go over, be positive, be supportive, and let's get into the video. Okay, so before we get into the top 5 guns, we do have a couple of honourable mentions. The first one of those being the CBR4. It got a pretty significant, a decent buff this season. I might even make a video on it. Yeah, it got a somewhat decent damage buff to it, and a couple of other, I think it was an accuracy buff as well, which made it a lot more consistent to use. And yeah, definitely brings it back up to not quite a top 5 gun, but definitely one where you can definitely use it quite well. Another one that got a decent buff in recent season is the QXR, and that has feels pretty similar to the BP50, except of course it doesn't have quite as good damage output. Of course, the buff being to the increase to the BSA, all the take away from the BSA penalty from the what was it called, the mod, the weapon skill thing. So yeah, then also the final, of course, honourable mention is the Fennec. Not quite as good as what he was in some seasons, just because it doesn't have quite as good versatility as some other guns on this list. So yeah, and it's mainly a close range killer, and also some guns can also gun its close range. But yeah, definitely still worth checking out. There is an alternative to the Fennec on this list. So yeah, now let's get into the top 5 guns even. Okay, so in at the number 5 spot we have the Type 19. It's a highly versatile, super consistent gun, but yeah, it's basically good at all things, but not the best at one thing. It's just a super highly consistent gun that is super. It's this basically a very nice, easy to use gun over all ranges. Definitely one worth checking out if you want a highly consistent gun. I would say the something like the Royale can not quite compare, and you will want most likely a red dot, so the loadout, obviously it's the base iron sight is not very good. So yeah, or of course a mythic or a legendary with a better iron sight than the base as well. Overall, a very nice gun, one that's definitely worth using. Has some decent stats to it as well. So yeah, definitely one worth checking out if you haven't already. Yeah, of course the mythic is currently still in the game, so yeah, definitely one worth checking out there. And yeah, definitely a really nice gun, and one highly worth checking out, I would say. Okay, so in at number 4 spot we have the Odin / the Type 63. The Odin being the easier on of the two to use. It did get a couple of nerfs, but nothing too serious at all. Yeah, it's a slow fire rate, the heavy hitting gun that you can hit if you hit 2 chest shots. Two shots if you can hit 2 chest shots or above. So definitely very highly powerful. It can also 2-shot, of course, to the head. Now the base doesn't have the best iron sight, so you may use a red dot, but of course it does have that really nice mythic that really does help it. And of course the Type 19 is of course the better version of the SKS. A bit more hard to use just because you have to be a bit more accurate, and it is a semi-automatic, so it is a bit harder to use in that regard as well. But other than that, it's a both of these are super good guns. Not quite as high up as some other guns, just because they are a bit more difficult to use compared to most other guns. So yeah, they are a bit more difficult to use, but definitely worth still checking out. Of course, if you are a bit less skilled skilled player, a bit worse accuracy, then but definitely check out the Odin, a bit easier to use. And if you are a bit more an SKS merchant, definitely the Type 19, because it just has a better overall faster fire rate and a better. And which makes it a lot easier to use than the SKS. So yeah, and it can also one tap to the head at any range. So yeah, definitely one worth using if you are looking for a bit more of a passive play style. So yeah. Okay, so in at the number 3 spot we have the MG42, of course the king of all of the LMGs. It's pretty slow mobility, of course it is an LMG, so that is to be expected, but it is the master of spray and pray. It is high fire rate and decent damage compared to most LMGs, and decent damage for that fire rate, makes it actually has insane fire rate to be fair, makes it a highly versatile and very decent gun to use. It has also got very low recoil for the fire rate, so that's also another thing that's very easy to control as well. So overall it's just an all-round great gun. Like I said, another passive gun, one that's a bit easier to use, and definitely one that needs, of course, loads of people. Definitely one doesn't necessarily need a red dot as well. The base iron sight is not too bad to use. I haven't received any nerfs really, and other things have been nerfed around it. So definitely one that is creeping back up there into the meta. Definitely one that you would want to check out if you haven't already. So yeah. In at the number 2 spot is the CX9. I will say it is the second best SMG. I think we all know what is number 1, especially with the 12 round hollow point rounds or something like that, which turns into a burst fire. I will say those are only really usable in search and destroy, but it basically makes it a super aggressive gun. It is a bit more versatile than the Fennec, which it is also always linked with, and it has better overall base iron sight, so you don't need a decent skin to use it as well. That's something you do need with the Fennec most of the time. So yeah, overall it's got some decent versatile, some decent range to it, and it is basically one from all my more aggressive players. It's slightly higher on the list than maybe some other people would put it, just because I'm more of an aggressive player. So definitely one for me that I do enjoy using. I of course have the mythic, and also the base iron sight, like I said, is pretty good as well. So yeah, definitely one to look into, especially with the burst rounds for the for search and destroy, because you only do have 12 bullets per mag, unfortunately, of that one. But of course that probably would be overpowered if you had any more. So yeah, definitely another one to check out. Okay, and then the final honorable mention we're going to give is the BP50. It is still just as good as, pretty much just as good as it was in previous seasons. It did get some slight nerfs to some attachments, nothing too serious, but I didn't put it on this list because, actually it could be second, but I decided not to put it on the list, just because I just don't really enjoy using it myself. So yeah, it's still very powerful, I would say, so definitely still one worth checking out. But there is, of course, the number 1 gun is significantly better than it, and yeah, it still has a decent time to kill up close. It's a bit more of an aggressive gun than it used to be. Like I said, very similar to QXR in that regard, and also the CX9 as well. Yeah, definitely a bit more of an aggressive gun. They kind of nerfed the versatility of the gun. So yeah, definitely one to check out. And now let's of course get into the number 1 gun. Okay, so of course the number 1 gun of course goes to the USS9. No surprises here. It is basically king of close to medium range, and it can also very much hold up in the long range as well. It is highly versatile. It can actually 2-shot to the head, which is insane for an SMG. It is very much more like the GKS. It has a slower fire rate but very high damage, and it has very good lethal zones as well. Definitely one worth checking out. Again, the base iron sight is not the best, but it's still very much usable, and the base damage is of course arguably the best in the game. I would not be surprised. Hopefully it does get nerfed really. I would not be surprised if it doesn't, but there we go. Yeah, definitely one worth checking out if you haven't already. So yeah, and that's of course Yeah, so yeah, definitely one worth checking out. Yeah, you can of course use aggressive and long range as well, with the same damage, and it's got really easily controllable recoil. Again, one downside I would say is you have to be slightly more accurate than some prey weapons, just because it does have that slower fire rate. But if you are accurate and can hit your shots, then of course it will serve you well.